when you're racing Marc Márquez, you're not racing a normal human being. Let's see if this face cam has stuck with me. Yes, it has. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Apex to Apex podcast with your host, me, Stanley Jones, where we discuss all things MotoGP and Formula 1. Slight change on that one. I changed around MotoGP and Formula 1 because I'm enjoying MotoGP a lot more than Formula 1 nowadays. Now, you might think what's slightly different with this one. There's a new overlay. Of course, we can thank my friend Pav for the new overlay. And it made me think of an idea to maybe live stream a podcast episode rather than go through the whole pre-recording, editing, I'll do it live, it'll record, I'll edit it, I'll upload it on the same things anyway, on the Spotify and YouTube. And it'll also be on the Twitch, so killing multiple birds with one stone. However, if you are here, you are aware, and you've seen, how the podcasts work in the past, either the video or on Spotify, as we said, you know how it works. Yes, I will be looking at my phone a lot. I made myself an app, if you don't know. I called it the A2A, Apex to Apex app. Clever, isn't it? Where it's basically a teleprompter for me where I write down notes and things I want to say, and then it's there. So if I'm looking down a lot, I'll either have the standings or the points, something I need, or the schedule of what I'm saying. But this podcast is going to be about a race review, really, of the Brno, the Czech Republic Grand Prix at Brno, as we love Brno, for the MotoGP weekend that just happened, which saw Marc Márquez once again prove why he is the greatest, in my opinion, the greatest of all time, and do back-to-back wins and close that gap to Bezzecchi in the championship to 40 points. If you missed it, you may be wondering how is he doing this. We'll get into it, but there's not just that. We're also going to mention about Márquez announcing his 2-year extension. Yes, we're going to talk about the Marc Márquez contract extension announcement, which was today. Everyone's in the know. Knows this was going to happen anyway, knows the extension was fully underway, knows it was just a matter of time before it was announced, and they are waiting for the Concord agreement to happen, which was announced, I think, before the race weekend in Brno, so of course we expected a rider announcement after the Monday Brno test, which of course was yesterday. Marc Márquez announced a 2-year extension in the factory Ducati team today. Not a surprise to anyone, but it's also not just MotoGP, who again are going back-to-back with Assen this weekend. Assen's one of my favourite tracks. We'll do a little Assen track review or preview as we normally do. Formula 1 are also at Austria this weekend, so we have a double whammy this weekend of MotoGP in Assen and Formula 1 in Austria. And I think Austria could be similar to Barcelona. We'll get in white in a bit. Now I go to the next slide, but this is just me setting up the episode for what's going to happen. The first bit we're going to talk about is Brno itself and the Marc Márquez masterclass, and how the championship momentum has now shifted completely into Marc's favour. Despite him being only 4th in the standings, he has closed the gap from 2 races ago, which was 102 points, to just 40 to Marco Bezzecchi. It's back-to-back wins for Márquez, so he's had 3 races since his recent surgery. He was in the top 10 in Mugello, but he won in Battle on Park. He won the sprint race and the main race. He comes to Brno. He's 3rd in the sprint race. It was a very entertaining sprint race between Márquez, Bagnaia and Ogura, and then he put in a masterclass to beat Ogura on the Sunday. And I say masterclass because it was strategic how he did it. I wrote here it was aggressive and strategic early on. I wouldn't say it was a controlled victory. I said he knew what he was doing, he knew what he had to do, but it was immense what he was doing. And why I say he was aggressive at the start is because if I remember rightly, his launch was okay, and he started 4th on the grid, remember, as Ogura actually secured what was a very good pole position. And Márquez came into turn 1, I think initially was 4th or 3rd in turn 1, but because Bagnaia was 4th in turn 1, but Bagnaia kind of ran wide a little bit, which meant Marc, if you saw the track preview for Brno, I did mention, there's a line you can take at turn 1 at Brno where you can undercut them on the exit, and that's exactly what Marc did to Bagnaia. So he already got one out the way coming up the hill to turn 2. I'm going to call it turn 2. People call it turn 3 on the map. I'm going to call it turn 2. So he came up the hill, and he needed to be aggressive fast, because if Ogura could get in a pattern, as the tyre grip came down, the bike started sliding more, Ogura was going to be the one to beat. So what did Márquez do? Márquez came into turn 2 with the first heavy braking zone on the circuit, and he lunged it down the inside of Digi Antonio. Exactly what he needed to do. It's a beautiful move. He made Digi Antonio stand his bike up, and then Digi actually had a moment. So Digi would have hit the brakes going into turn 2 in 2nd, and they came out the little turn 2 and 3 chicane in like 6th or something because of the moment he had at the rear after the move was done. That was Márquez in 2nd, and now he had to hunt Ogura. It wasn't as simple as that, because I just remembered. You had Bagnaia, who got back in the fight. Bagnaia again showing this weekend the old Bagnaia that we got used to in his early years on the Ducati, which secured him the 2 world titles. Again, very strong on the front end of that Ducati, which made him... Bagnaia, again, is very sensitive with the front end. If he's got it in the perfect thing, he'll be one of the best. And he can slide the rear in. If he's not got it exactly how he needs at the front, he'll struggle. He had it how he needs at the front. His problem was just his tyres, as expected. He'd dropped pace toward the end. But he actually took the lead. Was it lap 1 or lap 2? One of the early laps, he actually repassed Marc down the hill. No, so it's into turn 8, the little stadium section in turn 8, repassed Marc down the inside, so Márquez dropped to 3rd, Bagnaia then made a quick move on Ogura and then took the lead and led for a while. And Márquez knew at this point he made the aggressive start, but then he needed to do it again. And then he made the move on Ogura again, another great lunge into the penultimate corner, similar to turns 2 and 3, turns 13, 14. Made the move down the inside on Ogura, and then you had the factory reds 1 and 2 for 16 laps. And you might think that sounds dull, but this was 16 laps of pushing to the limit of who can match what they're doing. They would trade fast laps, all three of them would trade fast lap between Bagnaia, Márquez, Ogura, who was just about staying within 1 second of them. And as the laps went on, and I predicted with about 7 laps to go, watch Márquez and Ogura find the extra pace, which is exactly what happened, which is why if you follow our Instagram page at Apex Wapers Podcast, you'll see my smug face because I predicted it. Márquez made the move, a stunning move on Pecco Bagnaia on lap 16, I believe it was. Coming out of turn 2, he purposely went deep into turn 2 to get on the throttle early, to surprise Pecco Bagnaia down the inside of turn 4. It's exactly what he did. He did it perfectly, he then defended into down the hill, went into turn 8, defended, and Pecco Bagnaia. At this point, his pace was dropping anyway, so he wouldn't have been able to respond to anything of what Márquez is actually doing. But again, perfect move. Márquez knew exactly where to do it, how to do it, and that he could control it, because he also knew as soon as Ogura sees Márquez make their move, Ogura had to respond and make the move on Pecco Bagnaia, which he did. I can't remember if it was later on in that lap on 16 or if it was lap 17, down the hill into turn 10. Another beautiful lunge by Ogura. He didn't make Pecco Bagnaia stand the bike up because Bagnaia knew the move was coming, I think, even from that distance away. So then you had Ogura and Márquez for the last 5 laps, hammer on tongue for everything they have on these bikes. And Ogura couldn't really get closer than 4 attempts. Hashtag make F1 great again. Fully agree. We'll get to that later on. Couldn't really get closer than 4 attempts to Márquez. And it's just showing who Mark is. It's showing Marc Márquez is the greatest of all time. It's showing Márquez is the GOAT. And he continues to prove why, even with these injuries. There was a moment on the last lap where you thought Márquez knew he did it. And he came around turn 13 and his bike had this rear slide which looked uncomfortable as the front shattered when the bike slid. Every Márquez fan would have their heart in their mouth in that moment, but for him it's a perfectly normal thing to happen. But it was a strategic masterclass of how to win a MotoGP race when you might necessarily not be the quickest, but that's where Mark is, and by doing so, he's closed the gap to Bezzecchi to 40 points. Is this the people who are new to MotoGP might think this is the best version of Márquez? No. This is not the best version of Márquez. This is a 65% fit Marc Márquez. I wish people were able to see the new ones if they missed it live. 100% fit Marc Márquez because he was a different animal, and even this version of Marc is a different animal because he's smarter in a way. He's probably not as quick, but he's still the quickest of them all. But he's smarter of what he does. But yes, he did cross the line. I think I put here 0.4 of a second ahead of Ogura. Ogura was brilliant again. He'll get wins definitely on the way. Again, nearly perfect weekend for Ogura. But again, when you're racing, I say get along there. When you're racing Marc Márquez, you're not racing a normal human being. But Marc Marc on Sunday at Brno was at his best of what his body allows him to do now. I said, is Ogura one of the unluckiest riders? Or I saw a lot of things saying, when's his win going to come? I don't quite know where that stipulation has come from. Because he's just starting now to build on more consistent podiums. He's starting to fight for high positions. He finally sorted his qualifying out in Brno, which I've said for a long time he needs to do if he wants to be competitive to win the races. But I think the unluckiest rider right now is Pedro Acosta. Ogura is going to get wins on the Aprilia. If he goes Yamaha next year, we'll talk about the moves in a bit actually. Because now Marc has announced it, we expect the moves to just rapidly be announced this week and next week. Or in the coming weeks. Rumour is Ogura is going to Yamaha. Makes sense. Factory Japanese team. Japanese rider. Makes sense. I don't think he's going to be the best buy, but the 850cc new regulations, we don't know. Also, praise the Lord, they've banned the whole shot devices instantly. I don't know if that means the front and back. I know the whole shot is primarily the front, but I hope they kind of raise the back as well. I don't know if it removes the back end as well coming down. I hope it does, but it definitely removes the front, which is the cause for a lot of the accidents at turn 1. Thank the Lord they've done that from literally now onwards, so no more of that horrible whole shot device. It's a very smart move from MotoGP. And of course, there's no whole shot anyway next year, so they're getting it in early. Less aero next year. New Pirelli tyres, 850cc engines. 850cc engines, new regulations. It's a very exciting time, I think, for MotoGP now, especially with the new regs coming on. They had, again, the secret test on Monday with these whole regulations, but it was very secret, very quiet, very private test. But yes, Márquez, back-to-back wins, 40 points off the championship lead, and it's insane how quickly the title fight has changed. When you consider coming out of Mugello, he was 102 points behind Marco Bezzecchi. You may wonder where was Bezzecchi in this weekend. I'm going to tell you next what happened to Marco Bezzecchi, because frankly he was a fool. I don't think the punishment was correct with Bezzecchi. Controversial, I know, boo-hoo. I don't think it was correct. I think there's other ways they could have gone about it. But he deserved the punishment for what Bezzecchi did. But yeah, Márquez closed that gap to 40 points. And again, I said in the podcast recently, if he comes back fit, Mugello was 2 races ago, or 3 races ago now, when there was 102 points, and now it's 40. And as I said in the podcast recently, if Mark comes back fit from his surgery and he's able to be competitive, he will win on the Ducati again, and he will dominate again like he can do and like he's showing now with 2 in a row, and he will make Aprilia very nervous because yet again they've never raced someone as inhuman or unhuman, whatever the word is, like Marc Márquez. And it's exactly what's happening. And Aprilia are making these mistakes, and Bezzecchi's cost himself. Bezzecchi, of course, fell again on the Saturday sprint race, costing himself points and Aprilia points. But again, there's no points from the weekend. Sunday's a bit different. He actually didn't start Sunday, if you saw what happened in the Saturday race. But before the controversial thing happened, it's another sprint race where Marco Bezzecchi takes the dirt. We might as well go into it now, since I've mentioned Marco Bezzecchi a few times. But he was banned from the Sunday Grand Prix. And it's a lead in the championship which is shrinking massively. He got away with it because Martin didn't have a very good weekend, so the gap is still 10 points ahead. And I think he's about 23 points ahead of Digi Antonio, who had a quiet weekend, actually, Digi Antonio. He didn't have the pace on Sunday to go in the top 3, so he was like a lonely 4th after his battle with Acosta. And we'll go into Acosta later on, because there's a reason I say he's the unluckiest rider on the grid, but he did beat Acosta out. Acosta ended up breaking down again, another reliability problem for KTM. Yeah, so Digi Antonio is in 3rd, 23 points behind. And then you get Márquez now in 4th, as you said, 40 points behind. That gap is coming down rapidly. Now, what Marco Bezzecchi did to get banned, and it's the first time they've kind of penalised it to this extent, is after he fell off on the Saturday sprint race, again, Bezzecchi's fault. He doesn't like the sprint race. Whatever it is with the bike on low fuel, when the tyres start to slide, he doesn't like it. He's dropped it multiple times on multiple sprint races this season alone, and he's costed himself his championship. But he did it again into turn 2, the left-hander in Brno. And what the live cameras didn't show at the time is when the bike was being picked up by the marshal, because of how sensitive the throttles are, clearly the marshals don't know where ready to put your hands when you're picking up a MotoGP bike. The marshal, normally the bikes turn off after they've had a crash. For some reason, Bezzecchi's Aprilia didn't. But the marshal had his hand on the throttle and was revving the nuts off the Aprilia when he was picking it up. Bezzecchi heard this. It's not the first time it's happened. You can see there's reactions last year with Márquez, Rossi in the past, and everyone in the past. Bezzecchi heard it, didn't like it, and came over to and shoved the marshal. But he didn't just shove him, he slapped him. And then they had an argument, and Bezzecchi stopped the bike and turned the bike off, and then he slapped him again. So he slapped the marshal twice. Surprisingly, or to my surprise, it then came out a couple hours later on, because I don't think they knew anyone caught it on camera. Yes, Bezzecchi the following day apologised, gave him a signed glove, wicked. It was an instant race ban, and he was banned from the Grand Prix on Sunday, which was announced on Saturday night. Now, I think that's fascinating. One, it's the first time they've done this sort of penalty for this sort of incident. Out of nowhere. I don't know if there's behind the scenes been warnings, but there wasn't warnings here. We all know it's unacceptable, and we all know you can't do it, and punishment is correct. I don't think a one-race ban is a suitable punishment for it. I think, of course, Bezzecchi was 98% in the wrong, but then at the same time you could argue the marshal should know how to pick up a MotoGP bike if he's going to be a marshal for one, but that's just a 2%. Bezzecchi, of course, in the wrong, massively. But a race ban, that's the same ban as if someone's cheating, and you're giving them the equivalent punishment. And of course, there have been people who would have gone to pay to see Bezzecchi race on the Sunday, and they couldn't. So of course, Bezzecchi was forced to watch the race on Sunday from the sidelines, forced to watch Márquez put on another masterclass, forced to watch his gap come down the top of the standing. It's the worst possible way to lose points in the championship, purely because, one, he cost himself on the Saturday with crashing again, but then when you're not racing on the next day and you're watching that gap come down, I think is a pain. Which, I mean, it will never touch a marshal again, that's for sure. Purely because if they're going to dish his punishment out, no one's going to do it. Which is fair, okay. Maybe they did the punishment and the penalties they did to set a warning for any rider, that any rider, even the championship leader, can get banned for a race for doing this to a marshal. I think it was brave from the stewards and MotoGP to do it. I think it was very brave. I think, in my opinion, a suitable penalty for him would have been they'd get rid of his qualifying time. He starts Sunday at the back of the grid, which you know is a huge punishment in MotoGP. Back of the grid, and he does 2 long lap penalties. I think that teaches him a lesson. He can still race on the Sunday, because he's not cheating. He can still race on the Sunday and participate. And I also think, the 2 long laps adds a couple seconds to his times, or is it 2 seconds in Brno? Brno was a forced one to have. You get away with it being Brno. But he's already starting at the back, so he would have had to come from last again, and then work his way through, and then probably drop to last when he had to make the long lap penalties. So then he would have dropped massive points anyway. And I think that would have been a suitable penalty. I don't agree with the punishment for what the crime was. I think it sets a precedent now, because now you see, there's a famous Formula 1 clip of James Hunt punching a marshal, and everyone who's seen the clip, and everyone who knows James Hunt says, this is classic Hunt, this is a brilliant clip, this sums up James Hunt you now can't show that clip and say it's brilliant and then claim the Bezzecchi penalty was correct, because it's the same incident, just in different eras, but it's exactly the same incident. Actually, James Hunt's worse because he punched him. Bezzecchi just slapped him. Right, really. Yes, I get it, right? You shouldn't slap him. Understood. Valid. I don't disagree with that. But you can't tell me that clip is great and then this clip of Bezzecchi deserves the one race ban. In my opinion, I think we can. That's a debate that can go on for a very long time. He was rightly punished. I think he should have been out of race on Sunday, but from the back of the grid with a long lap penalty. But speaking of Bezzecchi, still we need to mention again his Saturday falls, because it's a real pattern this season. I can't remember all of them. I remember there was Jerez, he dropped out. Did he drop it at Kota? I don't remember the sprint race. He did drop it at Kota in the sprint race, I believe. And there's another one. There's 2 or 3. I don't remember him dropping the sprint race, but of course he dropped it again at Brno. Is it him? He dropped it at the round 1, didn't he, in Thailand? Of course, there's another one. Round 1 in Thailand, he dropped it while leading in the sprint race. So Bezzecchi is kind of known to crumble under some pressure. Now he's going to be under a pressure he's never felt before, because again, I'm going to mention his name. He's got Márquez breathing down his neck, and Márquez is hunting for a 10th world title. It's a different kind of pressure, and I don't know how well Bezzecchi will be able to deal with it. He does okay on the Sundays. It's something with the Saturdays he cannot deal with, and it's very, very, very obvious. And I think maybe now it's becoming a point where Saturdays could be getting in his head because of how much he's been affected by it and how much he's losing points on the Saturday. Maybe he can override and drop it, because he wasn't near the top 3 anyway. He was running easily fourth really when he dropped it. He wasn't even in the top 3 and he was defending. Well, wasn't defending. He had a little gap to runs behind of about a second. But he wasn't nowhere near going to catch the top 3. So I don't know if he just tried to settle and dropped it, but it really is becoming a pattern. Staying on MotoGP, I did mention we'll go on to Pedro Acosta and why I called him the unluckiest rider on the grid, because he does fight tooth and nail for every position he has to get this season. He's fantastic in qualifying. He's fantastic to watch in the races. He really is. And the rumour is, and I think we all expect it to happen with the driver market, now that Márquez has been announced at the 2-year extension to Ducati, we all believe and kind of know Pedro Acosta, will be announced at the factory red Ducati team for next season to partner Márquez. Now that's a dream team, and that will also be the passing of the throne at some point down the line. But he's got to endure the season on this KTM, this awful, awful, awful KTM, which is dreadful. And yet again, the KTM let him down. Everything he earns in this KTM this season, he's got to do it the hardest way possible, and that's if the bike doesn't break down again, because KTM have famously now this season had reliability problems almost every session. Again, it cost Acosta, that's a funny one, and dropped him out of the race on the final lap. He was initially fighting Di Giannantonio for 4th, but it was quite clear, he let Di Giannantonio pass at turn 8, but it was quite clear he had this tyre pressure problem, this stupid rule with the tyre pressures. So you let Di Giannantonio pass, I think, to stick. Of course, when you follow a bike this close behind, anyone who's seeing with the video, you can see this close behind. Yeah, when you follow a bike this close behind, your front temperature, your front tyre goes up. It will increase the tyre pressures. The riders need to do a certain amount of laps inside this tyre pressure window to not get, a 17-second penalty or something. It was clear Acosta was struggling with that, because when he let Digi pass after like a lap or 2, he then dropped 4 seconds to let Mir pass. Mir, by the way, who secured an excellent 5th on the Honda, he stayed on the bike this time. A very strong 5th with Honda. It was a strong weekend for Mir himself. If we're going to big up some other riders as well, we'll big up Toprak, who won the stinky Yamaha battle. I always call it the stinky Yamaha battle, because they're not going to get any high points at all this season, but he's already being the most competitive Yamaha there is on the grid, and the Yamaha is a dog. You might question where was Fabio Quartararo. He dropped it on lap 2. Apparently he said the team told him they need to try braking harder to try something with the bike. He did that and dropped it within the first, within the opening laps. Yeah, so Pedro Acosta, I think, was 5th or 6th at the time when his bike broke down, but again, on the last lap, what can he do? There's not more he could. Even when he drops it, he was competitive, fighting for 4th, actually coming towards the leading group in the sprint race, and he dropped it at the turn 11 chicane. But yet again, it wasn't his fault. It came out there was a technical issue with his ride-out device under braking. I don't think it didn't disengage, so when he leant in, the bike just dropped. So it's another KTM problem. It's another problem affecting Pedro Acosta, and it's another reason why I think he can't wait to get off the KTM. But he's doing everything he can do. He is doing, and the talent is undeniable. It's when the equipment's letting him down. It's a season he has to endure. Many other greats in motorsport have this sort of season before they really make it to the top. Pedro Acosta will make the top, and if he's fully supported, how much is a reliable Acosta going to damage the championship? And by damage it, I mean dominate. Him and Márquez in the same team is dangerous, because if the Ducati works anywhere near enough to compete for the win, it could be 1-2's most races with these. These two, I think, are a different level. I think they are not from this planet. Márquez is definitely not from this planet. Pedro Acosta can maybe reach that, but there's such old school mentality in both of them. There's a respect there because they're both brutal, and that's why it'll be fascinating to see how long that lasts next season, if they are indeed teammates, which I think they will. But I do think Acosta can put on a championship fight, but of course he's never going to do it on the KTM. He is the most deserving rider right now for a better package in MotoGP. That's a fact, absolute fact that is. Speaking of, we said it might as well do the rider rumours and announcements, because Márquez has, of course, extended the contract at Ducati for another 2 years, which is keeping it there until 2028, or the end of 2028, really. And the floodgates are now going to open. Now, this was all going to happen once the Concord agreement was agreed, and once the 850cc tests were underway, which happened on Monday, as we said. The rider announcements are now going to just flow through. We got Mark announced. Okay, if we do this correctly, we have Márquez, Ducati next year, factory red. I have to look up and think with my hands here, because there's a lot of things that could happen. Márquez in the factory red next year with Pedro Acosta. That means Pedro Acosta is leaving KTM. And the rumour is Di Giannantonio and Alex Márquez could go to the factory KTM. Of course, Brad Binder will then be out on his arse with no ride. That then frees up a role with Cressini and VR46. Rumour is VR46 could be Nicola Bulliger and someone else who I don't know. It could be a Moto2 boy maybe. I'm not sure for the second VR46 ride. It also means there's a space at Cressini, which is rumoured to be Mir and potentially Moto2 again. I can't remember. One's either David Alonso or Ivan Guerrera. One of them maybe on the Cressini is hard. There's a lot of things going on. Leave me alone. Then we go to Yamaha. I mentioned Ogura going from Trackhouse Aprilia to Yamaha, replacing Rins and Quartararo, because Rins again, like Brad Binder's going to be out on his arse with no ride. Quartararo's rumoured to go Honda, so that leaves 2 rides at factory Yamaha. One will be Ogura. That's clear. The other one, I don't know if I've read. Oh yes, I have. Is Jorge Martin. Jorge Martin is rumoured to fill the other Yamaha seat. That means there's a space at Aprilia. That'll be filled by Pecco Bagnaia, who's just been booted out of Ducati. All the things like this. Who's going to fill the Trackhouse bike? We don't know yet. Again, I think that'll be a Moto2 star. But there is moves up and down the field. They're the main ones. I expect to see 2 or 3 Moto2 riders come up. I'm surprised Diego Moreira is not getting the bump up to the factory team purely because he's very talented, although he's still a rookie. He had an interesting weekend, Moreira. I think he was very competitive in qualifying, but he dropped it at the chicane where Acosta dropped it on the sprint race on lap 1, so we didn't get to see his pace on the sprint race. And then Sunday there was a bit more hype for him than what turned out to be, because in the race he just wasn't competitive. In the race he struggled and I think dropped back to the lower points in the top 10, even maybe outside the top 10, which is odd. But I think with the Pirelli tyres next year, of course, he's experienced these tyres before. He'll be one to look at next year. And I said it on the stream, and I'll say it again. Toprak will be one to watch next year. With the Pirelli tyres, with the smaller bikes, he can use his braking technique on the front, and this weird way he does it, only he can do it. There's going to be many riders to watch next year, those being just them. There is, I think it's called Silly Season, I believe. They call it Silly Season in motorsport. For this reason, because there's a lot of rumours, and frankly I don't know all the rumours, but they're the main ones I believe. Now let's go into an Assen preview. Assen is the next track. It's the Holland track, of course. They call it the Cathedral. The Cathedral is in my opinion, one of the best tracks on the calendar. It's twisty, it's thin, it's risky, and it's fast. And the majority of race there, I remember the race in 2018 was phenomenal. Anyone who watched that race and was lucky enough to witness it live, phenomenal. It's also got a very controversial last corner. I love the last corner, the last chicane. You've seen clashes there. Nicky Hayden and Edwards in 06 when Edwards fell off at the last corner. Of course, Rossi Márquez 2015, that famous clash. It's one of the great circuits in the world, in my opinion. But if we start, okay, let's lock in now like we're on a MotoGP bike and really pretend like we know what we're doing. Down the track, of course, Assen got changed about 25 years ago, 22 years ago, 23 years ago, around then to a slightly modified circuit. But you come down the main straight at turn 1. I don't know if they'll reach top gear. Some runners might stay in 5th gear. But you come to the right hander, which is 90 degree. There's a big curb on the inside you can lean your knee on, and there's also a lot of runoff. Riders, there has been many instances where they've lost the front, weirdly on exit more than entry, and there's been a lot of safety. But this is a place where moves can be done, and it cambers down a bit. It dips down before the apex, so it kind of favours the move to the overtake in turn 1. So they lean right, 2nd gear. Come on, you then got the kink of turn 2. Turn 2 is classed as a corner. It's where these boys are going to go in at speed, maybe 3rd into 4th gear, right-hander. They'll go over the curb again with their right shoulder, and it's fast. They're not going to brake at all. Maybe a slight lift, but they're going to try and spin the rear tyre and stay to the left side of the track for the long turn 3. Again, if you have the video, you can see me doing the long turn 3 like that. Turn 3 turns into turn 4. So it's one long corner. Turn 3 is the entry. Turn 4 is the apex. What they're going to do is they're going to lean right, clip the inside curb, and then use all the width they have on the track. This is also where the long lap penalty is as well. But they're going to use all the width they can coming out of turn 3, which leads instantly to another right-hander of turn 4. So that's 4 corners, 4 right-handers. Doesn't suit Márquez, even though he's had a lot of success during the past. You come out of 4th gear and it's instantly down to 1st gear. So you might be in 2nd gear, maybe coming out of turn 4, instantly down to 1st gear for the left hairpin, which is very famous. Turn 5, very tight. Again, this will be moves similar to the surprising undercut move you can do down the inside of Brno. Riders can surprise their rivals if there's enough room to go down the inside. There'll be a camera shot from the back of a bike looking at another one, and you'll see just how close the riders are to each other in the apex of turn 5, but it's a left-hander, the first left-hander on the circuit. You come out of turn 5. I think Alex Márquez crashed on the exit last year in the sprint race, clashing with someone. Maybe Zarco, I don't remember who. But you come out of turn 5 and you have a little straight. Technically it's turn 6 and turn 7, as it says here, the little kink. Coming out of you go left and right, but it's all flat out. The riders will reach top speed here. It's a long straight. It's arguably longer than the main straight. But the difference is they go into turn 8 and they go in fast. I don't know if they knock it down to 5th gear or 4th gear, but they're going in at one of the highest speeds you can go into a corner. They are on the brakes, but they're using all the width they can as they lean right. But the issue is, if you use too much of the exit of turn 8, you're then messing up turn 9. So you're going in high speed. Again, it's cambered, so it bounced down. You're going in high speed. If you use too much exit and can't stay enough to the right, turn 9 is then a fast left-hander, where this is where Lorenzo fell off in his Honda day, and this is where really his concussion problem started. Because it's a fast left-hander. If you go off here, you're going to go off in the gravel trap at some speed. You might go down to 3rd gear maybe, but they're carrying all the momentum coming from out of turn 5 still into this left-hander turn 9. It's a long turn 9. You come out the exit the right side. Instantly come out of turn 9, you throw it to the left of the circuit for the 90-degree turn 10. There's not a lot of breathing room after this track, or on this track, as soon as you come out of turn 1. You're into turn 10, you're on the left side of the track, you're on the right side of the track coming out of turn 9, you throw it all the way to the left, so you throw it back to the right side for turn 10. Turn 10, there's a little kink at the exit of turn 10, which kind of helps the rider go on the throttle, because it kinks left, which means more room. The riders will use all the curb on the exit, the front wheel will come up here, they'll bomb it down the little straight into turn 11, which is a tight left-hander, so 90 degrees, probably the second time, or up to this point in the circuit, second tyre. So it'll be a 2nd gear left-hander, turn 11. Again, moves can be made down the inside. You're going to put the elbow over the curb on the left, use all the exit you can on the right. The curb is quite high on the exit, so you don't want to go on the curb or on the certain threshold of the curb, but you can lean the bike on it. Yet again, when you come out of turn 11 on the right-hand side, you throw the bike left. You throw the bike left because turn 12 and 13 coming up is similar to turns 3 and 4. Yeah, similar to turn 3 and 4, but shorter, if that makes sense. It's a bit thinner. So you're on the left side of the track now because you're throwing it back left. You then throw it again right to the inside of turn 12. Riders will start to build the throttle up from mid-corner from turn 12 because it curls round. It's a long corner that goes into 13, and 30 is even quicker. So you're using the exit of turn 12. You're then leaning the bike back to the right-hand side while still being on the throttle, or while still guiding the throttle here, because this is where Márquez had a famous high side in his struggling Honda days. If you use too much throttle, you lose rear grip here. If you lose rear grip here, you're going to go over the bike because the rear is going to have quite a lot of rotation going on in that rear tyre. But the speed is going to speed up as you speed up. The build is going to speed up. The speed is going to build up. I love doing that right now. As you come back to the right side of the circuit, in for turn 13, which is flat. Turn 13, when you build up momentum from turn 12 exit, turn 13 is flat. They're going to be all the way to the left side of the track. Now the fastest corner, or one of the fastest corners on the track, is turn 14. It's a kink right. Riders will use that inside curb. They might go down 1 gear. It's almost, if they take it flat out, they're going to be very, very wide. But you come into a section where you need balls. You need to be the bravest one. Turn 14 is a rapid right-hander. It's not that tight, so riders can abuse the limit on the left. They stay left. Then they go into turn 15 and 16. 15 and 16 is a right-left. It's a kink right-left. If the riders get it the angle right, they can straight line it over the curb. They can straight line it before turn 17, which again is a fast left-hander. I love this circuit. But 15, you're abusing the track limits as much as you can on the inside, and you're straight lining it to 16, which isn't really a corner. If you can straight line 15, you don't notice 16. The difference is, because of the speed and the momentum you're carrying, they're going to be 5th gear maybe in this point, nearly in top gear, sorry. They're going to fight to turn 17. Now turn 17, you might go down 1 gear to 4 while you're on almost full lean with this momentum, because the corner opens up towards the end, so you can carry the momentum. It's not a tight corner at all. But this is where you'll see riders, sometimes a rider can make a move into turn 17, and it's an incredible move down the inside. More often than not, you'll see them follow their rival through turn 17, and as the rival coming out of turn 17, the normal line is to go to the left-hand side of the track, because you've got 18, 19, 20, and 21, the final chicane. With 20 and 21 is the kinks, basically. So I'm going to say there's 19 corners, effectively, but it's the final chicane. You want the bike as far left on the circuit as you can. if you're following your rival, you're going to see them follow out of turn 17, follow on the exit. When their rival goes left to make the entry more open for turn 18, you then sneak down the inside for turn 18. A lot of those overtakes are like that. So again, let's say you're not being overtaken, you're in a qualifying lap on your own. You come out to the left side of the circuit, you hit the brakes down to second or third gear. I think it'll be second. 18, instantly into 19. When I joke about the flip-flop and they have a little breathing room, there's no breathing room. As soon as you lean into 18 and you're on that curb on the inside, instantly the riders have to pick the bike up and then lean left. And there's a great camera angle where you see, especially lap 1, how the riders are doing what they're doing. Then technically get turn 20 and 21 on the exit. If you've got 18 and 19 right, turn 20 and 21 aren't corners. Again, you can go on the curb, straight line it, and the finish line is right there. There's not a lot of run between coming out of the chicane and the finish line. That's where the controversy happens in this track. This is why I love this track. It's one of the most physical ones because there's no breathing room. It's also one of the most demanding ones for the rider because it's so technical. Having a fast bike on a straight won't help here. This is where I think KTM and Acosta could be very good. Márquez struggles here in the past, yet he's got multiple wins here, so that's one thing to see. If we focus on this, we can quickly. Bezzecchi needs to respond. Aprilia needs to respond. Martin was dreadful in Brno. You might have noticed I didn't say his name much because frankly he was dreadful. He qualified 10th in the sprint race. He didn't really do much. Of course, on the Sunday he had a double lap penalty for the crash he caused in Hungary lap 1, and I think he finished 10th or 9th or around there. Which is interesting. If there's rumours that there's talk if they've downed his tools. I don't think Aprilia have downed Martin's tools yet, but we know they don't get on. So they need to respond. Aprilia need to respond. And this, again, I think this track will suit the Aprilia more than the Ducati, purely because the turning on this Aprilia is immense. And I think it's got that on the Ducati. I think the Ducati might have the exit now of corners, and maybe the initial braking zone. But the cornering of Aprilia is immense. That Aprilia at turns 8, 9, 10 and 15, 16, 17, I think it's going to be very, very good. I think that's where their strength is really going to shine on the bike. And of course, Bezzecchi is only 10 points clear now, and Mark's only 40 points off, as we said, with Martin still hunting there in second, just 10 points off. Don't forget Di Antonio. Is it a smart move for Di Antonio to me to go to KTM next year? You never really know of KTM now. Of course, it's a factory ride, so it means more money. That helps. He will secure his life funds being a factory rider. I don't know what KTM would be like. I don't know if KTM had the finances or the capabilities to make a competitive bike at the minute without Pedro Acosta on the bike. It was also odd, speaking of this, how Acosta tested the 850cc bike in the test on Monday, when all the rumours are he won't be there next year. And I like the answer KTM said, because they were just openly said Acosta is the best rider they've ever had on the KTM. So who better to test it? Make of that what you will. I think it was brave. I think it would have been better for them to get someone who wants to be familiar with that bike. But there's also good knowledge for Acosta to know what that KTM can do and what the A50s can do. That's the fun of a very private test. Anyway, this whole podcast has been at MotoGP. As I said, it was at Assen, but let's not forget that Formula 1 is returning now. The recent Formula 1 Grand Prix, in Barcelona, to me was the best race of the season. We had Lewis Hamilton return to the top of the podium with Ferrari for the first time. They are at Austria this weekend. The Red Bull Ring. The Red Bull Ring is, of course, owned by Red Bull, hence why it's called Red Bull Rings. It's the shortest track on the calendar. Debatable if it's got 9 or 10 corners. I say 9. I don't like to believe it's got 10 corners. I don't count turn 2 as a corner. I count as 9. And it's also the last chance. I think it's the last chance for Red Bull to convince Max to stay. Max Verstappen, that is, to stay in their team, to stay in their foundation, to stay as part of the Red Bull family. They are bringing multiple upgrades this weekend, 7 or 8 upgrades this weekend. And Lord, do they need it, especially on the chassis side, because that Red Bull is just like the Yamaha. We said that Red Bull's a dog, and at this rate, it'll be quite obvious. I think it's obvious anyway that Max Verstappen will not be there next year, and if he is, I'll be amazed. This could be, as I said, their last chance to convince him to stay. Yet again, it is a track he has won out 4 or 5 times. If I remember off my head, he won here in 2018, he won here in 2019, he won here twice in 2021, and he would have won here in 2023. For those who remember last year, he got taken out at the hairpin, the turn 2 hairpin. It's turn 3, but I'm going to call it turn 2. The hairpin by Kimi Antonelli, of all people. Kind of cost Max the championship, or one of the reasons that cost Max the championship in that one, but that's a very quiet conversation, it seems. But I do feel like the Austrian Grand Prix could be similar, entertainment-wise, to Barcelona, because we're going to have tyre wear. Austria is famously known for being hard on the tyres. Because of the long corners, we'll get into it easier, but it's always, or majority of the time, it's very hot conditions, it's very hot temperatures, it's a tough climate in Austria, and there's a lot of camber changes, a lot of elevation changes, which of course is hard on the tyres. Throw that in with the high temperatures and the long corners in the middle sector, there's always graining, there's always tyre strategies, and I think it could be Barcelona again. It would not surprise me if Ferrari come out strong again, purely because of how they got on in Barcelona and how the tyres reacted to the Ferrari in Barcelona circuit. It's not a similar circuit, I don't think that's fair to say. I think the characteristics are quite different, but it's a driver-friendly circuit, is what I think. Red Bull do not, in my opinion, if Red Bull do not deliver with the upgrades in their home track in front of Max's, there's going to be the orange grandstands in front of Max's people as well. I have an inkling Verstappen's decision is already made up, and Red Bull, of course, will do anything they can to change that, in my opinion, and keep him and throw everything they can. Book at him in a good way, throw all the money in the world, all the teams in the world at him, throw him his own F1 team, throw him his own GT3 team. If they cannot make this package competitive, he won't be there. And this is the first time they're really bringing a raft of upgrades to this extent at a track that normally favours their car. If we look at F1 as a whole right now, of course, you still have Kimi Antonelli leading the championship. You still have to believe that Mercedes will be the dominant ones. Maybe not dominant now because of what happened in Barcelona. Maybe their dominance has kind of faded a bit, but they will be favourites. I think it's fair to say that Mercedes will be favourites. I think, as I said, expect Ferrari up there. The Max fans like myself want Max to be up there as well. I just don't know if they can. I don't think the Red Bull chassis has got it, especially in the middle sector. I think it's going to chew the tyres alive, and I think the Red Bull is going to be unstable in that middle sector. I don't think anyone's going to get it near the Mercedes and Ferrari. I can see another Ferrari victory, personally, and I hope there is another Ferrari victory. But the problem with F1 right now is because it's the new regulations, it's very difficult to make predictions and do previews, for me, for Formula 1. One, because I'm still pessimistic about the cars. I'm still pessimistic about what the cars can do and how they race. And two, because these cars haven't been to these tracks before, so we don't know how they're going to react. These cars, Formula 1 cars now in this era, in this modern era, I don't mean just these cars, these last few years, are very, very track dependent. McLaren could come out and randomly be top before the Mercedes breaks down again, because Mercedes, of course, are having power unit problems. It seems like it's due to an overheating issue, which is then affecting the battery, which is why a lot of Mercedes PUs are going pop. Mercedes PUs are the most competitive power units. They're also seeming to be some of the most least reliable. If we look at the breakdowns recently, of course, Antonelli broke down in Spain when he just got George Russell. George Russell broke down in Canada. The McLarens are breaking down with the Mercedes power unit what seems to be most weekends, which is interesting. And I think Austria could play the same effect purely because of the air is thinner the way the track is. Not like Mexico level, nowhere near Mexico level, but compared to the tracks we've been to, the air is a bit thinner, and there's temperatures, as we said, are higher. It's harder on the engines because it's a fast circuit. I'm just going to get the Austria track. I know I said it's 9 or 10 corners, but I still want to get the track back up so I can just picture myself actually on the track, which makes it easier to do the track previews. But it's a fast track. So again, let's now focus like we're in a Formula 1 car. Short F1 preview, but I kind of have to see how F1 does early doors to be excited about it. But yes, down the main straight, you're looking up at turn 1. And the reason why I say up at turn 1 is because there's a big uphill before the breaks in turn 1. Drivers are braking uphill into turn 1. I'm going to act like you can still brake in a Formula 1 car and qualifying without lifting off. So let's imagine the good old days of it. You brake up the hill in turn 1. Probably, or in the good days of F1, if you can use the brake. I don't know what the deployment's actually going to be like. It's going to drain coming out of turn 1 into turn 2 hairpin. Did he call it turn 3? Okay, turn 3 hairpin, because this counts turn 2 as a corner. Okay, whatever. Yes, the battery's going to drain coming out of turn 1 into turn 3, and then coming out of turn 3 into turn 4, and then coming out of turn 8 to turn 9. The battery's going to drain there, so I don't know what the harvesting is going to be like and the deployment will be like. But you brake late in turn 1 if you can, because it's uphill. The driver's going to afford to brake late and not lock up that front right. If you lock up the front right, there's a big fat sausage curb on the exit waiting for you. It is a 90-degree right. It is a blind apex or a blind exit when you're leading in. Because that's the mic I just hit. When you're turning in, you're seeing on the right side the wall. There's a wall there because it's the pit exit. Effectively, so you'll see if you come out of turn 1 and you're fighting someone kind of the pitch, you're going to see them just come right in front of your vision as you come out of turn 1 exit. Then you're going to bomb it up the hill. My dad loves this part of the track because you full throttle now, if you can do full throttle still, out of turn 1, down this straight. The straight line mode will be open. There's 4 straight line modes this weekend, which is a lot. The main straight, the back straight, then the second back straight, and then, as I said, between turn 9 and turn 10, straight line modes. You're bombing it back up the hill because you're looking at turn 1 before you went over the start finish line. When you come out of turn 1, you can see turn 3. In the distance, because it's that uphill again, you can see turn 3. And if you're sitting as a fan in turn 3, you can see turn 3, you can see the kink of turn 2, you can see turn 1, you can see turn 5 and 6 and turn 4. It's a wonderful circuit to be there as a crowd. It's one I really want to go to. So you come up the kink of turn 2, it's the left. MotoGP don't do it anymore. MotoGP added a chicane because of a crash that happened in 2020, which almost took out Rossi and Vinales with a flying bike. But F1 still do the kink up the hill. So you full throttle, lift kink up the hill. The cars don't even notice the left kink, but they notice the climb up this hill. It's even steeper than turn 1. So the drivers can again brake as late as they want to for this hairpin. Turn 3 is a tight hairpin. opens up towards the exit. So there's different lines here. Some drivers prefer hitting the brakes hard and getting their front right on that inside curb. It's a 180, it's a hairpin, you know what it is, you're coming back on yourself. And kind of work with the wheel spin. Other drivers, Max I know is one of them, where they, instead of going tight to the curb, they take a little bit of a wider line and kind of sacrifice the apex to focus on leaning their car against the exit curb, because you're still climbing uphill coming out of turn 3, and the curb kind of sits on the exit like this. And if you can see the video, I'm doing it at a little angle with my hands right now, like an artist, because you can lean the cars, lean the left side tyres against this curb, and there's a sausage curb as well, so you can lean the car on there. Again, you come out of turn 3, you bomb it now downhill. The straight, it is a straight, but it's a little wiggly one. But there's a lot of room. You get the slipstream. You can make the move, of course, into turn 4. When they're braking hard, they're coming back on themselves again. It's not a hairpin, but the apex of turn 4 is tight. So they're slow at the apex of turn 4. I say slow. It's going to be third gear in an F1 car. Compared to turn 3, it's fast. But compared to other corners around the track, it's quite slow. It's the tightest part of turn 3. You want the inside line of turn 3. Because you can easily use, as soon as you've made the inside line, the apex of turn 3, you can instantly start building the throttle once you've rotated the car, and you can use all the track width from the left. The curb kind of goes round like this. The left is, of course, the right hander now coming out of turn 3, and the curb follows the track like this. You can use all this curb coming out, and if you've got it perfectly, and you've built the speed up, you're, without even realising, you're now facing what's turn 5. Again, the cars don't even know it's turn 5, but you're facing turn 5, which is a right kink before the middle sector really starts. Get turn 3 right, you've got your turn 5. Get turn 4 right, you've got your turn 5 sorted, because you're building the momentum from turn 3. Turn 5. Well, technically turn 3, actually, yeah, from the hairpin. I was right by saying that. So you've built the momentum. You're now on the left side of the track coming out of turn 4. You're now going to go to the right side of the track for this little kink at turn 5 under a bridge. Now you're looking at the two left-handers, turn 6, turn 7. These are the tyre killers, both on the right-hand side of the tyres. Because it's high speed, F1 cars will take this probably in 5th gear. The corner's a long left-hander that comes back on itself, eventually does 180. But because the speed they're taking, the momentum, you get the G-force on the driver's neck here. The whole time you want to be as close as you can to the left-hand side as you can. There's a white line just outside the curb, as close as you can on there, because you want to use, again, it's like the corner towards the exit. Turn 6 opens up. You can use the curb on the exit. You want to build the momentum. If you mess up turn 6, your turn 7 entry is going to be horrible because you haven't got the momentum. You need the momentum. Come out of the left-hander at turn 6. The right-hand tyres now are screaming of temperature. Use the curb. Little tiny burst straight to turn 7. And now it's the same. The first half of turn 7 is the same as what the entry of turn 6 is. You throw it in. You want to be as tight as you can now. So you come from the right-hand side of the circuit. Throw it left. You want to be as tight as you can to the inside curb. Do not touch the inside curb. They will spin or be very uncomfortable on the car if you touch. It's quite a high inside curb. Where turn 6 comes back in itself, turn 7 stops coming back in itself midway through, and then suddenly kinks right to turn 8. Of course, if you get turn 7 right, the cars don't notice turn 8 at all. Drivers can again use this inside curve for turn 8. You get turn 7, you follow the momentum. You want to stay as left as you can through turn 7. As soon as the track opens up and it kinks right, you throw the car to the right side for turn 8. Again, it's flat out. Straight line mode will be active after turn 8 now. Back down the hill, we know, or we come up the hill a little bit, that make down the hill before the entry of turn 9. You won't see overtakes in Formula 1 here unless something's weird happened. But the entry for the pits actually starts before turn 9 on the right hand side. So it's always messy because the midway through the pit entry is the apex of turn 9. Turn 9, I love the corner. This is a top speed corner. They used to take it in 7th gear. It's almost a 90-degree right-hander. Now it'll probably be 6th gear, but they will throw it in, maybe go down 1 gear. They will throw all the grip. This is where you see the grip of a Formula 1 car at full tilt. They'll throw it to the right-hand side. Again, you don't want to touch the inside curb. You want to just guide the front right tyre on that white line to the inside, and then use as much exit curb as you can. It's high speed. Your brain doesn't have enough time to think about what it's actually doing, so it adapts to what it sees around it. You just throw it in, and you close your eyes, and you hold your breath, and you hope it sticks. If the car does stick with grip, you have a little burst to turn 10, now back downhill rapidly for the last corner turn 10, which again, not in 90 degree, but similar to turn 1 where you can abuse it. The focus here is, the entry's okay, again, you're not going to see an overtake in F1 in turn 10, but you need to get the exit right because it goes into the main straight, and the exit, just like the exit of turn 4, if you get turn 10 right, and again, it's going to bounce down at the entry. I say again, it was Assen that bounced down, so Austria. Turn 10, the front right's going to bounce down when you turn in over the curb. You're going to want to use the inside curb. You have to. Get that right. You can guide, again, the front left tyre all on the exit curb and bomb it down the main straight. That's the lap of Austria. One of my favourite circuits. One of the most challenging ones because of the high speed. the G-forces against the driver's neck, and the outside tyres will be screaming, especially the middle sector. Drivers love it. There's a reason why Red Bull used to win here, because their cars used to be quite clean with this sort of circuit, with this sort of temperatures, with this sort of graining. Interesting to see. Strategy, I hope strategy plays a big part. I hope we see 2 stops, 3 stops. I hope we see tyre deg. Apart from that, there's nothing more to predict with F1, because we don't know, frankly. The main focus, I think, will be the upgrades. Now we're back in the European swing of things. We'll see the upgrades coming thick and fast from now to Hungary or Silverstone as well. This is Red Bull's round to get the upgrades in. The cameras and eyes will be on Red Bull, and if they can produce a car Max Verstappen needs. Anyway, 51 minutes, 52 minute stream. I'm going to leave the stream there. It is live as well, so this will go straight to Twitch. But remember to follow and subscribe to the Twitch account if you're watching this now. Apex Apex Pod on Twitch, Apex Apex Podcast on YouTube and Instagram. And Spotify. Make sure you follow that and subscribe to the YouTube channel. This video will be on the Twitch, on the Spotify for the audio, and on the YouTube channel as well when it all gets uploaded and edited. Hopefully tomorrow. Not going to say much, but it is a big weekend ahead for both our series, for both our motorsport series that we love. Thank you for listening to this. Thank you for tuning to the Twitch. Thank you for anyone who does follow and get involved. And I will see you. I can't stream on Saturday because I'm working for the qualifying and the MotoGP sprint race. However, this episode will be out tomorrow, hopefully, and I will see you for a live stream on Sunday for the MotoGP Assen Grand Prix, which will be at 1 p.m. Sunday afternoon, followed by Formula 1 at Austria at 2 p.m. So I will see you then. Thank you for listening to this. Thank you for getting involved. Thank you for anyone who is watching, and I'll leave you with the punchline of this podcast, which is the race is just a punctuation. I'll see you at the weekend. Thank you.